Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MCR. Today, I am blessed with Mr. Matt Lynn joining me. I threw him a curveball the other day and asked him to join MCR off a whim since Mr. Artley is out on sabbatical. And of course, he said yes. I was a little worried because he knows how I operate. But thanks, Matt. So, how's everything going in your neck of the woods?
It's great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, Michael asked if I would join, and I said, sure. What are we talking about? And he said, I don't know. So I asked him again last night, and he still said, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I was like, okay. So I'm here to talk about whatever he throws out there.
Yeah, so I'm pretty whimsical about things, but we'll talk about all things architecture. Matt sent me over some questions that he kind of formulated up. I'll put these in the chat. We'll kind of guide through these. Feel free for any of you to answer them. But as always, this is about all of you in the community, so feel free to ask any questions along the way that are pertaining to things within review. Since we do have a special guest, we'll stick more to answering and talking about kind of industry standards and where things are moving. That's where some of these questions are going to be coming from. We'll have some of you answer these in the community if you want to, but just be aware these are kind of where we're going to be going. Needs to be a session we can follow him. I know. I wish Jason said he was going to try to post updates, but I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he's truly taking time off because that's what I was going to be doing soon as well. And you are too, Matt. You're taking your sabbatical as well. We were all hired around the same time frame together.
Yep. I'll be off in June next month. I texted Jason. I said, hey, does your computer still work on sabbatical? Because I heard that they turn them off. And he says, I don't know. It hasn't come out of my backpack. So I said, good for you.
So he hasn't tested it.
He has not taken his computer out of his backpack since he took sabbatical.
If I had a
good for you,
bet you are definitely going to test it.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so we'll start off with the first one. Feel free to answer community if you want to in the chat as we go through and talk about these. Well, actually, some folks haven't met you. So before we even get started and jump into here, let's give a little background of you, Mr. Matt Lynn. Where did you start out in the industry before you rolled over here to the consulting side? What made the shift, and what do you do now? Because sure. I don't think we've talked about your newest role ever since then. But okay, start.
Okay. My name is Matt Lynn. I am a regular attendee of MCR. I am a licensed architect. I worked as a traditional architect for 17 years. I did hit that stress max and burnout phase, to which I decided to escape architecture in the traditional sense. So I was looking for something outside of architecture that I could do. I see Ted is in here, MCR today. I knew Ted at my previous firm. He was our account executive at ATG, so I knew of this world outside of architecture, being the Autodesk reseller business, and I decided to pursue it. So I applied at ATG. I was hired in 2018. So I've been here for 7 years. Is that right?
Yeah, because your sabbatical was like
coming up on 7. Yeah. So
wait, hold on. You knew about this part of the industry?
The only thing I knew about it was Ted would show up at our office now and then and tell us about all these cool softwares. He was very knowledgeable. I was impressed with everything that he knew and where he could take us. So it piqued my interest. I'm like, if I'm not going to do architecture, what do I want to do? It's really the only thing I know. I couldn't go be a doctor or a lawyer, right? So I was like, well, I wonder if I could pursue Revit somehow. So I actually went to the Autodesk website and say, are there any jobs at Autodesk? Which there were a ton, none of which really fit my skill set. And then I saw all these resellers. So I just threw my resume out to like 5 resellers. And by chance, someone at ATG reached out to me, which is again, which was our reseller at my previous firm, Ted specifically.
Who reached out to? Do you remember?
I do. Scott Pruitt.
Okay.
Yep. He was with our firm for a long, long time. He's back to industry now, but he reached out, and I was hired like within a week.
Dang.
Yeah. So I was a traditional tech, mainly production for the first couple years. No, that's not true. I did a lot of consulting and production, and then I rolled into much more consulting than exclusively consulting. And then so I guess my boss was initially Scott Pruitt, and then it transitioned to Emily, who's been on the show before.
Yep.
And then Emily transitioned up to a director role, and she says, "Hey, Matt, would you want to be a manager?" And initially I was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll just be a tech. I'm fine." And she's like, "You sure? Because I think you'd be pretty good." And I was like, "Well, I've been in leadership roles at previous firms. It was just more drama. I'm not into it." She's like, "Okay." And then I'm like, "Well, would you still be my boss?" She's like, "Yeah. I was like, "All right, I'll do it." Okay, so I did it. And then we had a similar conversation about a year later. She said, "I'm going to be the VP. Will you be the director?" I was like, "I don't know. We used to be my boss." She's like, Yeah. I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." So that's where I landed today. Now I'm director of architecture. But I was extremely blessed with a leader who taught me how to lead, which I never had previously. I've had leadership roles, but I never knew what it was to actually be a leader. That was totally unplanned. I wasn't planning on going there, but yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that current leadership that allowed you to decide to move into leadership allowed you to make that decision because you would have probably second guessed it knowing from past experiences in comparison to what you have now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was my intent to come to ATG and be a tech. I'm like, I just want to draw. I just want to draw. That's about it. And I stuck to it for a year or two, and then I agreed to do other things. But
yeah, so that was kind of what. So you were a tech for probably 3 years, 4 years, because it's like 7 years, right? And then you moved into a manager role, and then we had hyper growth, right? So we went from a manager role and immediately went into, I would say, almost a year, right?
Yeah, I was a manager for, it was less than a year, maybe 6 to 8 months, something like that.
Because then I rolled into that role and then moved directly out of that role, but in the same facet for structure.
Yeah. Ted notes, we used to make sales calls together. We need to do that some more, Ted. Let's go do that again.
All right. So there was an answer in here. Ryan said, how do we get BIM design to be more effective or efficient from initial design through construction? Currently work for a sub, and any coordination modeling we do is hampered by half-complete broken models provided by architecture MEP engineers. I'm glad you didn't say structural engineers in there, Ryan. And then modeled in Revit, but using 2D symbols, no 3D, basically useless for BIM coordination. So I'll start with that, and then Matt, you can jump in wherever.
That's a big loaded one. Okay, you go first.
Yeah, because to unpack that, we've seen it today. We see it now, especially with us having to go through and provide sub modeling. So GCs will reach out to folks here at ATG and will model and help assist from a BIM execution plan level. Essentially, people will win a project, and in the BIM execution plan is a deliverable of a model due to coordination. Coordination is happening more rapidly, especially with a lot of the larger GC firms. And we'll go through and model, because in this same example here that Ryan's using is that people are using 2D instead of 3D. Now that's coming from like actual AutoCAD or they're just having like shop manufacturing drawings. They're not really going to show a reflective model. What Ryan is saying is that folks are using 2D in Revit why does that happen, Matt? Why do people leverage Revit, but most of it or 2/3 of it are in or 2D in Revit? They're using Revit like AutoCAD.
All right, so I'm going to dial in on that first sentence. How do we get BIM designed to be more efficient from initial design through construction? So, well, I'm just going to stop at that sentence right there. I would say BIM specifically very much is efficient and can absolutely perform exactly what you're asking for. I think the hiccup is more adoption of what's available than the technology itself. I don't know. Would you agree with that statement, Michael? Or anyone else who would like to chime in? Like I think the technology is pretty good. It's getting better every day, but I think it's currently very efficient.
So
The
as
adoption
building
isn't quite
information,
there. Go
yeah,
ahead.
as building information modeling system, right? It's a process that we're supposed to that's being adopted. And yeah, Matt is right. There is solutions out there that provide an efficient process. The issue is adoption and also the clarity of adoption from a process perspective, right? People may adopt it but not fully embrace the process, and that's an issue. So
Yeah. Has anyone ever seen on LinkedIn, Revit is not BIM?
yeah, I see it all the time. Didn't you post something like that
That
the
was
other
a
day?
little sarcastic. I can't take that anymore. That's where every time I open up Revit or LinkedIn, it says that Revit is not BIM, and then it's like some AI generated novel. You know what I mean? And then it's got like 260 comments. Yeah, I need that to go away.
The reason is because it creates turmoil, right? I think a lot of social media is all about consternation, and that's where
Yeah.
we pick up a lot of interaction because the whole point of social media is for interaction, but most of the
Yeah.
interaction isn't, "Hey Matt, how's your day going?" It's more of like, "No, I'm right, you're wrong." Um,
There have been
unfortunately,
several times I've typed in Revit is BIM with a capital is just to see where it goes. You know what I mean?
you should because it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Does it equal 1-to-1? No. Yeah.
Oh, see, it's already yeah. See, already it stirs things up. BIM is not just Revit. There you go.
But yeah, so it's
Yeah,
part of the
it's a great conversation. And just for clarification, I don't think Revit is BIM. It just seems to be the only topic that hits LinkedIn.
yeah,
Yeah.
because what we're all passionate about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the same thing from a perspective of any other solution, right? I mean, it would have been like Civil 3D is BIM. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any process down the road.
Excel is a database. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Is Excel BIM? It's part of it. Could be, right? It's part of the philosophy.
Yeah. So I like this one where we underutilizing BIM or Revit in the design process. So I think where are we underutilizing BIM? I'm going to start that part because I think we are definitely underutilizing it from an SD phase. You know when Forma came out, Matt? And it was like
Do I know
all the
when?
rage.
Like 2 years
No,
ago?
not yeah, I meant more like when Forma came out
Right.
as a
Yeah, I
statement.
remember. Yeah.
It was definitely an all the rage and then it stopped. I felt like the SD phase was going to have some better initiation into this building information modeling system because it's going to be linking into ACC. You have access to it, right? A lot of quicker movement from sustainability as well. Why do you think that didn't take off as much?
Um, I think when they released it, there were still some bugs, and there's still some bugs. They're working them out. Um, I don't know. I anticipate it will get there. Just recently they decided to stop continuing the development of Format
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, we're just going to put that in there." I think that was a big move in adoption of Forma current. Um, Because if you don't have Format, you're left with SketchUp. SketchUp plays with Autodesk okay. Autodesk products play with Autodesk products much better, right? So that's why people would use Format over SketchUp for those that did, which wasn't a ton of people. But because of that, if you were that person, then you're naturally going to start migrating towards Forma. And I think they're over time going to put more and more things in Forma. Anything that's SD driven will just live there, is my opinion.
Yeah. And I feel like SketchUp, for me at least, it crashed all the time. I haven't used it in years, but I felt like it was not a very effective solution.
Yeah, I do like Forma. If nothing else, you get a site plan like that. You can go there, put an address in, and it'll give you the what do they call it now? Topo Solid,
Yeah,
and it's
Topo
got the
Solid.
contours, and it's got an image overlaid on the Topo Solid, which is great. Now, granted, the contours aren't super precise, but it's precise enough for SD. It's good enough to start, and then then you'll get your survey and your replace and everything. But I don't know. I think it's still a good start.
It
And at
speeds
some
up
point, I
your
think you'd have
process
to
time.
cut it off. I don't think you could continue it all the way through design. At some point, you could be like, all right,
Cut
now
it
you're
off.
done. Yeah,
But it's good to get started, right? And you're
for sure.
reducing time. I think that's a big play there as well, as like the time that it takes to do your own Topo Solid or before your own Topo, which we all know took forever. Um, Definitely, I would agree.
Yeah, the old topo was that razor thin plane, which was just so annoying.
All the dots.
Yeah, I like a good thick. I like the new topo solid way better than the old topo, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like here, better than waiting for civil plans. Folks, I mean, even on the structural side, you could use it, especially with Topo Solids if you're doing any cutouts for any foundational work. Like I would use it if I needed some type of topo to get my project started. If the architectural team didn't have anything, I think all teams could use it. It's just a great solution to get your topography from a layout perspective. But if nothing was given to you yet, good
Yeah,
starting
just like
point.
Neil says, we started using it in the SD phase. It's better than waiting for civil plans.
Yeah,
Yep, that's the perfect time to use it. And you can start doing massing. You can start looking at the sun studies, environmental impacts, and all the things. So it's good.
yeah. Alrighty, next one. I don't know. Do we want to talk about how confirms? I want this number 4 kind of keyed into me, but how confirms balance creativity with the increasing pressure to standardize and automate?
It's good. It's a good question. Um, to me, I think standardization and automation shouldn't necessarily drive design. It should drive documentation. And if you stick in that realm, right, good, solid standards, it's not telling you what your building looks like. It's telling you what your sheets look like. And I think the same could be applied to automation. Now, there are some automation things like test fit and stuff that are essentially driving design. And that's how do you balance that? I mean, I'd say leverage it because it's good, but at some point, it's just if you consider it an SD tool, it's still great. You can't have test fit do everything. It's like, all right, I've got basically what I'm going, and then just like Forma, at some point you got to say, all right, now we got to move on.
Is that also like Versa too? Would you say in the ability
What's
to
Versa?
render? Isn't that the rendering solution, the one that gives you like the AI
Oh,
generated?
you're talking about now that you said Versa, I can't think of the actual name. It's Evolve Lab. Are you talking about the Evolve Lab one?
Yeah, Evolve Lab one.
Uh, it's not Varus. Thank you.
Ferris. All right,
Yeah.
my bad. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
You know me,
Thank you, Ben.
dyslexic.
Yeah. Versa Varus. Yes, there you go. Sorry, what was the question? Oh yeah, yes. I think Varus is very much SD. Yeah.
But do you think it's like when you're looking up here and you were talking about not replacing what we're doing but enhancing? Do you think what do you use that for concept and pushing the boundaries of your own creativity, or is it replacing? Does it help? Would it
I
help
think it's
you?
a, I think it's a co-pilot generator. It's an idea generator because if you get some sweet image on Veris, inevitably you're not going to do exactly what you see. You're going to say, "Oh, I like how it took that form and it curved it," as opposed to in my head, I always thought it was straight. So you're pulling ideas from just an idea generator. I don't think at any point you would say, "Yep, that's it. I'm going to build that." You know what I mean? It's just like it's opening your creativity to consider other alternatives, is the way I see it.
And you would be open to doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, for sure.
I think some folks may not, though, right? More.
Yeah. So yeah,
No.
I mean, there's an element of pride. Like, no, I do it myself. Well, okay, it's a tool. I'll use tools. Tools get better over time, right? They get better in construction. Why not? Why not have better tools in design as well?
I love that. No, that's true because, right, think of a nail gun,
Right.
right? That's always my analogy for going from AutoCAD to Revit, especially for like a roofer or even a framer in that same mindset, right? Would you use a nail gun in those instances, or would you do everything by hand?
Yeah. I was on a site one time and I saw some guy installing drywall in a soffit, and he had this gun. It was awesome. He went "Zoop," and it would shoot it up and twist it. It was like a drill, but on extended. So he wasn't on stilts. He was just like staying on the ground going "Zoop, zoop, zoop." I was like, that's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah. So
cool.
instead of having to get up there, yeah.
Right. No one's gonna say, "Hey, why are you using the latest and greatest tools? That's not how we did it in the 70s." Well, because we have better stuff now, like
The issue is that some people don't have that same mindset, right? Which we've learned in industry, which it holds creativity and advancements back. And that comes back to like that whole thing, right? Where are we underutilizing BIM? I think it's that if you take that and rotate it back up, I think one of those precursors to underutilizing BIM is not embracing the process that enhances your creativity and evolution of the industry, right?
right. You're still making all the design decisions. You're just
Yeah.
using the tool to consider alternatives. Okay.
There's
No,
still a
there's
belief
this
that,
belief that software is not a tool. I mean, I agree, and that's probably the stumbling block that people can't overcome. It's a great point.
what would you say if someone said that to you?
Me?
Yeah. How do you
Yes.
convince somebody? Is that someone that's unconvincible?
Possibly? Software is not a tool. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you could convince someone otherwise.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I would just say,
I mean, some people are just plain stubborn, in which case,
I think it's an issue with technology in general. So, like, I would rephrase another question and say, do you think a pencil is a tool? Because that's where the mindset came from, right? It's not. It's the transfer from going from no technology to technology. Folks that adopted technology early in their life or were born into it understand that kind of. They lived and breathed it, right? Some folks didn't. So assuming and understanding it being a enhancement tool is kind of that process. So you have to make it relatable, just like anything. Whenever you're doing something, you need to make it relatable. So
yeah, good answer.
Okay. So I really wanted to get to this one. What piece of technology? Okay, what piece of technology that completely changed how you work, and what's the next one? But let's take the first one because I know one that has definitely changed both of ours. Is there anything other than that one? Because you probably already know the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, the softball answer is Revit. If anyone says, "Nah, Revit didn't change," well, you're lying. It did. I mean, that one changed everything. Even the people who hate on it probably use it, you know. So yeah, what's one piece of technology that completely changed how you work? Full stop, Revit. What do you think, Michael?
I don't know.
You say Bluebeam? Maybe Bluebeam.
What piece of technology? So if I unpack technology, what do I think revolutionized my workflow and made me more effective in and outside of work is probably something different than what I would say for in. Because look at Revit's been around for me.
Your entire professional career.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah, so
I
it's
have a different
Yeah, it's different
perspective,
for you, right?
right? So technology's been there, right? And we weren't forced to embrace it. It was just part of what we do, right? So there wasn't no convincing, there wasn't anything like this. This is, if you want to be the best at what we do, you embrace technology and you move forward, right? And you look for new innovations. So that's just kind of where I entered in this. Yours is a little bit different.
Windows is a great answer, Doug. Sorry, back to you, Michael.
No, you're good. So what I think was a huge game changer in evolution was definitely ChatGPT, because that helps facilitate all other technology. I thought that's where you were going to go, Matt.
No, I mean, if I
you
think
can see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, chat has revolutionized every single day for us in inside work and outside work, for sure. But for me, like I did live in a day where I was producing documents in 2D and AutoCAD. Jumping to a three-dimensional environment that is rich in data was mind-blowing at that time. You know, it was a total shift in the way you think and in the way you document, obviously, but more so the way you think, you know?
Yeah, because when
Architects
I was
have always thought in 3 dimensions, but they've always drawn in 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
And then so going from thinking in 3D, drawing in 2D to thinking in 3D, drawing in 3D, that was a major mind shift that some architects still haven't made the jump and never will, and that's okay.
Is it okay, Matt?
It is okay. Yeah. If you do residential only and you're stuck in AutoCAD, that's okay. Yeah.
It's okay. Okay.
It's okay.
But you have to be residential only. Okay.
Well, I mean, I use residential as an example. You wouldn't have to be. It's okay, but I mean, it's not my preference. Do I think it's the better way? No. I think, you know, a three-dimensional data-rich environment is, you know, BIM in general is the way to go, but you know, some people are more seasoned and stuck in their ways, and that's okay with me. That's okay with me. Is that okay with you, Michael?
No, it's not. Because
okay.
There's still people we talk to that hand draft. But yeah, like when I interned, I started out using Revit. I went back to AutoCAD when I went to a shop manufacturing because they were not at that point, and you wouldn't use it for shops in general at the point that it's at right now. But then moving back into the structural realm, yeah, it was Revit as well. So I have a blend of AutoCAD and Revit experience, but same thing, right? I've lived and breathed the technology, so for me, yeah, I still think that chat was the most innovative part because it assisted in. I'm not gonna say both those workflows because it didn't come out when I was still using AutoCAD. But
by the
definitely
way, Michael
enhances
and I
everything.
refer to ChatGPT as Chad, and he is our friend.
Yes,
He
100%.
is our coworker.
Did I say Chad right there?
No.
Oh, okay.
We absolutely personalize him because he is our friend.
Yeah. Wouldn't be able to work as effectively without Chad. Yeah. I was going to say, is it okay? Okay. Older. We can remember working in architecture using pin and bar drafting and thought that that was innovative. The mainframe computers, then PC things like ChatGPT don't seem like a huge leap to me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Bob, yeah, I used to hand draft as well. I did in college. When I took my first job, there were almost as many drafting tables as there were computers.
So let's unpack this because I think it is, Bob. Let's see this. Okay. This is my thought process. You can call me out I take full responsibility for not being as open to this thought process. But basically, PCs, so from hand drafting to PCs, right, meaning computer aided drafting design. How, Matt, let me ask you this, because you've been in both eras. And Bob, you can jump in here and tell me as well. How much time did you increase producing your CD sets?
I never produced CD sets hand drafting.
Okay.
When I worked when I started, I'm going to show my age. I graduated in 2001. Okay. So in 2001, there were still people at the firm who didn't use computers. In fact, my boss at my first job, the receptionist would print out his emails and hand them to him at the end of the day, and he would read printouts of his emails, and he would write his responses via hand and give them back to the receptionist to respond.
Oh my god!
So that shows my age. Now there weren't a bunch of people doing that. It was just one guy at the company that did that. He eventually did adopt email, but so I never produced an entire set via hand. In college, it was pretty much there was a lot of hand drafting in college, ton. So plans, sections, elevations, I got pretty fast, but we still did perspectives via hand, and that is a true art. You get you have your horizon line, you get a dot here for the 2-point. If you do 2-point, you can do a 1-point or a 2-point perspective. Have you ever done these, Michael? Like, if I taught you how to do
you're
this,
confusing me.
I would blow your mind.
I take that back.
This is so cool. There's a 2-point perspective and a 1-point perspective, but you have a point here.
I've done that.
And you draw the lines, and I mean, once you finish, it's like truly impressive. But then it's gonna take a couple hours to see if you like the view. If you don't, you're starting over.
So we actually did that. I did that in high school in art class. So I remember that where so you do 2, and then you have like a tether to it, right? And you're drawing at angles for them. So I've done it that
just a straight edge. Yeah, either way.
Yeah, straight edge where you're just doing point to point. But I've done that, but it was in art. It wasn't in actual school and practice. So that's how I know that part. But yeah, going back to what Bob was stating, I'm going to assume, and anyone can tell me, from hand drafting to computer aided drafting design, you probably did 2x. Let's just use that number. It's probably more.
I would 2x, say like 4x, yeah.
Okay, so 4x, right? Now let's add chat, because this is where we're at in enhancing your effectiveness. So 4x from that to this. Now, we're not saying chat is replacing that part, right? It's not replacing the computer aided design part, but what it is doing is making you more effective at your job. So
efficient as well, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, efficient, effective. Those are the same words, right?
Efficient is directly correlated to time. Effective just means you're good at it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So
I know
efficient.
what you mean, though.
Yeah. So makes you more efficient. So in that perspective, how much more efficient did you become?
Yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah. You could write a paper in chat in 100x.
Yeah. You can write a custom formula for Revit in how much more time versus having to research it, trial and error, right? Enhancing your Revit environment. So those types of things. Dynamo scripts, right? Custom JavaScript stamps for Bluebeam. Not everything. Most things can be done, but verified with chat. So I'm just saying, like, the enhancements. For me, I was talking to Matt when it first came out, because I was telling Matt about it when it first came out. In innovation, my analogy was it was like the internet era, right? I was around when dial-up happened. You couldn't be on the phone while you're on your computer, and I remember the annoying sound that it used to make when it was starting up a computer and connecting to the internet. But yes, it was like that. The internet era for most folks, we all remember the annoying sound, is when I think is the new evolution for chat for everyone, which would be AI. Okay.
I
So
just saw the Pete Davidson. That's hilarious. Have you seen Chad from SNL? Pete Davidson,
no,
Isaac
I
from
did.
there. It's so funny. It's so
Oh,
good.
I see. Was
His name's Chad.
oh, okay. The dial up, yeah. Okay, so let me go back and make sure I didn't miss any other conversations. I guess just how you leverage it, right? So Revit is part of BIM, LinkedIn too. Oh, this was all before. Okay, I remember the days of DOS, moving windows and mouse. Yep. I think BIM 360 ACC has changed the way we collaborate as a design team. I would agree. Now, here's a
For sure.
funny notation here because Matt and I actually presented at AU last year for model coordination in ACC. At what point is there's going to be frustration? Is the GC team's going to get on board with model coordination in ACC instead of Navisworks? What is the difference? What is the holdup, in my opinion? Because there is a more effective way to do things in Autodesk Construction Cloud because it's one centralized area. Let me tell you this, Matt. Okay, let me break this down for everybody. When you're doing coordination and you're using Navisworks, the issue is there's a lot of time to produce, meaning process, if you're working on a large model. So I'm saying, a 6-story hospital. Let's just use that as an example, right? Or a 10-story, whatever. It's a large hospital, right? And instead of exporting, you are required to export out IFCs, which takes time to produce and send them for coordination. Happens weekly, right? You're having weekly coordinations or bi-weekly coordinations, but you're still using Autodesk Construction Cloud to collaborate with. At what point does the adoption happen where everyone just, if you're already coordinating in Autodesk Construction Cloud for linking files, sharing, why are we using that for model coordination?
Is that for me?
If you have any
Anyone in
value
chat?
to add to
Yeah.
that, yeah.
So Navisworks, people who know it well, and they've been using it for years. And it's the thing about Navis is you can put huge, huge files in there, and you could zip around like you're using the best BIM box on earth for a tiny file. It's so fast. You know what I mean? It breaks those files down so small. But is it IFC? I mean, you can put any file type in.
Yeah, you do any
and it
format.
just zips around so fast. I think that's one thing that you have to acknowledge.
Yeah. But I think the main thing about that is to coordinate on issues. So to Liz's point, Liz, how happy are you every single week to publish a new IFC for coordination? Because if they didn't realize it, other team members are already coordinating with what they need to do from a link perspective in Autodesk Construction Cloud. So for me, it just doesn't make sense. Why are we exporting out to Navisworks when we're already having live linking from ACC perspective, right? Maybe we're not coordinating, collaborating from all other disciplines, but you can do that same mentality just by going into model coordination and just addressing issues, which you're already doing in Navisworks using maybe some third-party application.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, like we definitely have to put it on our schedule. It's just the time. It's so time consuming. If you're in Autodesk Construction Cloud, why, and everyone else is from a subdiscipline level, why aren't we just all, model coordination and requiring people to do a third-party export? It's not third party. It's the same.
I was gonna say, I think that's Autodesk. Yeah.
It's just time consuming. If we're trying to reduce time and errors, right? Just model coordination like we taught at AU.
Yeah.
That's my one gripe. Yeah, see, even Ryan loves the cloud. M360 Glue, no, but that is a pain. But ACC Cloud is the best way for us to model and coordinate in real time rather than once a week in Navisworks. Yes, preach.
Yeah.
It's just time consuming, but also some trades aren't able to get IFC exports out. It's just, everything's already happening in one location. Not on all projects, right? Some people aren't in Autodesk Construction Cloud, but that's where it should be going. That's where Autodesk is moving the needle towards, I guess you would say, pushing everybody to. I'll just
granular
be
data
transparent.
and docs.
Yeah. Why not already collaborate and coordinate in there, right? So cool. I'm glad some folks on here are in that same vein. I thought I was just missing the mark on that because it just blew me away that your people are still exporting to a third same party solution. I know I keep saying third party. To me, it is because it's like so foreign. Why are you exporting out when you could just load that in ACC? Everyone's already linking to each other's files in there. Like, is this so foreign to me? And I think you're right, Matt. It's because the GC world's still used to using that as their solution, and it's like AutoCAD.
It's good. It's not seamless, but it's good. And they're used to there's pros and cons to both. I would lean more ACC too, but I understand why people are stuck in Navisworks. I get it.
We can't even get all the HVAC consultants to model their ductwork, let alone electrical, lighting, and plumbing. Yeah, I mean, that's the issue, right? That's people reach out to us, Bob, for that same thing, right? The subs are signing BIM execution plans, and there's not a lot of pressure right now on some to abide by the BIM execution plan. We do that, so folks will come to us and have us model for them because they're not in that era yet, right? So in order to meet the needs of the BIM execution plan. So highly recommend everybody reading the BIM execution plan. All right, so what's the next one? Are we teaching future architects to write software? I literally just left an architectural firm last week, but I'll let you answer this first, Matt, and then I'll answer it. Was that last week, Matt, when I texted you? Yeah, I think it was last week. Are we teaching future architects to write software, or should we be teaching them how to think digitally instead? Oh, I didn't know the second part was going to come that way, but yeah.
I don't think I could answer this sufficiently because candidly, I don't know what we are teaching our future architects right now. I don't know what the schools are doing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, U of A and ASU are using Rhino. I just left an architectural firm. Did you say oh?
I said, oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I just left an architectural firm that we're doing training for some of their what do you call them? Interns. How did I forget that? We're doing intern training for them because they are leaving school. They don't know how to, it's funny. They don't know how to design CDs. So I don't know what they're teaching them, Matt, because they don't know how to design CDs. So that's what they're going to teach them.
That's been a thing forever.
Okay. Yeah, as an architectural firm, they're going to teach them how to design a building, right? How a building goes together. Number two is
they skip on that in college too. Go ahead.
That's crazy.
Some of these points we can come back to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just let me explain what some of the key points were. The other one is technology. They are teaching them how to use Rhino versus Revit. And, someone made a good point about that recently, and I don't know how much I should go into detail about that in terms of like Revit being at an educational level free versus it being a paid for, right? You remember that conversation? Maybe that was the issue, right? There was no pressure for sales of like initiation of the solution because everyone can get an education license. Do not use it at work. It watermarks it, but be aware, right? That's free. If you're in school, you can get an educational license of AutoCAD and Revit. And I'm wondering, since it became free, was there no push to initiate those in the school districts? Right, especially here in the United States where it's predominantly used. Rhino, in my opinion, is used more so, in other countries like Australia. And I only know that
understood, there was no profit margin for Autodesk in that space. So they said, let's just give it to them.
And then when they gave it to them, the user went,
the adoption went down. Yeah. which is peculiar. I get it. As soon as something is free, it is automatically devalued,
Crazy.
right? If something is free, it's like, oh, well, it's probably not worth anything. So it must be devalued. We've seen that. Anytime you make something free, it's not as good.
But what's crazy is like video games are that way, and the way that they monetize it is they gamify it, right? So is there a way to gamify it? Anyways, we won't get too deep into that part. But to answer the other one, Matt, and let's unpull the pin on why aren't they teaching people construction documents and how to put a building together?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I remember graduating from college thinking I was pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I've got what it takes. And every architect out there will tell the same story, but they show up at the first job and it's like a punch in the face. It's like, wow, I don't know a lot. You know what I mean? And I get it. Looking back, I understand the concept. Colleges encourage you to think outside the box. It's very design heavy, at least where I went to school was. It's very design heavy, and you think outside the box, and you're very creative, and you come in like with no guardrails, essentially. Anything is possible, which is a great way to enter the field. And then at your first job, they have you drawing toilet elevations. And you're like, I never drew a toilet elevation. Why do I need this? And then you understand the structure of construction documents and you start to understand how a building goes together. And you learn that all on the job.
So that is the intention.
I don't know if that's the intent. That's just the way it's been for a long, long time. Now think about it. You only have 4 or 5 years in college. And studio is like, it's a big class. It's usually a 4-hour class 3 times a week. So it's a 12-hour commitment in the class. And then you have at least double or triple of that outside the class. So it's a lot of time, but it's not near enough time to truly learn every aspect of how a building is built or how construction documents are put together. Most of that happens at your first job.
It's crazy.
I would encourage anyone to speak up who's in here, who's in the architecture field or engineering for that matter. They would probably agree that most of that happens on the job.
With me going to a 2-year college, I put a complete CD set together. So I think it's that, to me, that's why I'm always so mind blown that happens, because I was able to go through and submit that thing for Habitat for Humanity, Matt, like we've talked about before, get accepted for an award for it and use that as a plot development. But we put a full CD set together, right? So that's, to me, it's mind blowing that some folks are going to a full 4-year college and not having that experience or opportunity.
That's cool that you did that. Okay, Chris Grow did a small set for a mini house. That's great. So maybe it's changing. Maybe my school was isolated back then. I don't know.
No, it's not, Matt, because like I said, ASU and U of A are still doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's going to that same concept of talking with that architectural firm who's doing some stuff there. So,
yeah. And I'm not totally against it either. I mean, like I said, they do reinforce like, hey, like if you were to ask a teacher, what software should I use for this? They're never going to say, go use Revit for that. They're going to be like, I don't know. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you think would accomplish that best? What have you tried? What have you tested? You know what I mean? It's very open-minded. And then you kind of adopt that mentality and that thought process, which is a very good thing to have, right? If you can carry that through your entire career, you're in a good place. But they don't give you the answers. And I think that's very intentional. And I think it's a good thing.
So Ed said they wish they taught more about codes.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn codes on the job. I did. First time they're like, here's your code study. I'm like, what's a code study? And you learn it on the job.
Oh, and Neil was saying that one thing for new users that they learned in Rhino, not Revit. I always default to what an old instructor said, be adaptable to new software. So instead of just being locked in. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. embracing new technology in general.
Um, can yeah, can schools teach architects about the physical properties of matter? Maybe that matter, like understanding that it's not really particular to bend. Oh, it's not supposed to bend in a specific way, like natural stone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming most folks went to physics, so
We did have
uh,
physics, yeah.
yeah.
We had one professor that says, he said, he kind of started one class one day. It says, uh, a brick wants to be anything but a rectangle. We're like, what?
Does it?
Yeah, and he goes, yeah, a brick. He was very philosophical
This
person.
is
But I get like it took me a while at the beginning. I was like, man, you go nuts.
unpack
He's
that for
like,
me, Matt. What do you
yeah,
what do you say?
a brick wants to be anything but rectangular. And again, it's thinking outside the box. So then we got into like different joint patterns and how you can, corbel, and then you can create curved surfaces. You know what I mean? Like usually when you think of brick, you think of a rectangular building. And he and then it kind of went into a detailing exercise of all the things you can do with a brick, which obviously transcribed through every material. You know, I remember when you and I talked about Frank Gehry and how he studied materials and studied
Yep.
fish and so forth. It was kind of that concept of like, don't go with what experiment and try new things. So, yeah,
Yeah. Open the boundaries.
yeah.
Okay, so next one, I have hope as I'm currently working on a public high school project that we will be Newark School of Architecture and Interior Design. I'm hoping that this changes things a bit. Imagine having practical knowledge as well as design creativity is unheard of. Yeah. I had to take geology as well. Yeah, so Chris said he had to take geology. You'd be surprised. Sure, stone can be curved or carved. Sorry, just have the right budget. Yeah, same. Yep, geology. Yeah, I met I had a friend who was a master's in geology when I worked at the climbing gym. Ironically enough, rock climbing, geology, understanding, you know, geology. We'd always go out climbing, and he'd be talking to me about the rocks and stuff before we actually go and climb the rocks themselves and talk to me about formations. So it
That's
was great.
cool.
Yeah, it was great for understanding like where boulders happen and some of the reasons and some of the areas. So I learned a lot about rocks and geology in general, and formations because of that.
Very good.
Which stones support sweaty fingers? Yeah. Um, okay, so let's go up, back up to these questions.
Okay.
Chat is very active today. Matt, see, this was a great idea.
Yeah.
Matt came up with an idea and we used it.
I thought outside the box.
Yes. Matt knows me. I don't like planning things. I like seeing what naturally comes to fruition. But Matt and I balance each other very well. Are we teaching future architects right? Okay, next one. What role should architects play in smart buildings and IoT designs? Is that
Good question.
LOT or IoT?
IoT, Internet of
Okay.
Things. What role should architects play? I do have a strong opinion about this.
Okay.
So IoT design, they're essentially talking about digital twins, right? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So IoT sensors are what goes in the digital twin to, collect and evaluate data. Digital twins in general are a good thing. It allows predictive decisions. So if you can see, if you notice trends in your building, like if you look at the southwest corner versus the northwest corner, and you're pumping the same amount of air into the northeast and southwest corner of your building, you're wasting a lot of money at the northeast corner and probably maybe not enough in the southwest. But you can start to see that data. So as opposed to just saying what you would think would happen, you have data to prove, am I wasting money over there? and should it be spent over here or whatever. So to make those predictive decisions based on IoT sensors is a good thing and it's noble. Has it been adopted yet? No, it hasn't been adopted. So the question, what role should architects play in smart buildings, meaning digital twins and IoT design? Okay, so from a strict business decision, so architects have been historically typecasted as poor businessmen. And there is a little bit of truth to that. But
why is that? Unpack that. Well, actually, we only have 5 minutes, so continue.
Yeah, let's not go totally there. But from a strict business sense, there's a huge play out there. Huge play. And you could make a ton of money doing it because nobody's doing it yet. As soon as this catches on, facilities manager grasp it, end users grasp it. Everyone understands the value of making predictive
owners
value-saving decisions. I hope it will become adopted over time. Okay, architects can create these things like that. They've already built the model, right? They've already done the heavy lifting. It's just putting that icing on the cake and sending a huge bill. So it is. What role should architects play? The smart ones, the businessmen, will take a predominant primary role in this movement because you've already done the lion's share of the work, and it's a huge piece of business out there. That's my answer. How about you?
I think from an investment standpoint, that's where most people will win. In terms of if I'm an owner or an investor that's trying to create multiple different areas. I always come back to hospitals because it's a great area of interest of mine would be to analyze host data, understand building efficiency, and use that to build an even better hospital moving forward, right? It could be the same thing for a hotel. It could be the same thing for multifamily. Yeah, predictive index data will allow you, which our buildings haven't been data rich in terms of handover from facility maintenance or operations in general, hasn't been data rich, right? The ability to understand the operations day to day, the sustainability of the building itself, right? Also they used it on the Burj Khalifa as well, from understanding high winds, active predictive indexing from a structural perspective and analyzing buildings that newer building design can be more effective in how they're actually constructing. Again, allowing an owner, somebody that's investing, or an investor, an investment firm, to create better, more effective investments in the future, which create just better buildings in general. So I think money will push it at some point when someone sees the added benefit, like we see, Matt, of having that data. Because what's king right now, Matt?
Data.
Yeah.
Yep. Granular. What does it say? Granular data in docs.
Granular data. Yeah. So data will be everything. The ability to predictively understand data is all going to come down to AI generation. And once that kind of pushes forward, that's when I feel digital twins will be predominantly adopted. I think the big push, as much as we want it to come from our side of the industry, will come from investors, people that are building buildings that have now been shown, if you build it this way, in this specific manner, with this type of systems in place, you're going to make X more in your return on investment, right?
Yeah. Data savvy owners and end users who can show data that show the return on investment. Some people are numbers people can say, oh, that's a lot of money. That's worth doing.
Yeah, like imagine this, Matt. You go to bid your project. Your board has predictive index from a building that you built before and how effective this design is. Yes, mind blown there, because that's what it would be. You do from the opposite end, from our end, by saying when you're going to bid on this project that's out there, your design as shown from predictive indexing from a current building is more effective than, Jason Artley's architecture firm, right? So just a thought. Cool. Well, we're at time. Thank you, Matt, for jumping in today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was good. Fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Love chatting with you as always. And for you all, next week is canceled. Just be aware I have an eye appointment. Then the following week, we're going to have another guest on. So feel free to join us in the meantime while Mr. Jason Outley is gone. But we appreciate every single one of you and truly appreciate you, Matt, for helping me out in this time. And until next time, any last words, Matt?
No, this is great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.